Hello and welcome. I've just finished the Camino de Santiago from León to Santiago de Compostela. I walked around 350 kilometers, nearly 500,000 steps, and I thought I'd just do a quick gear review. I've never been a fan of gear reviews, but I think that this information might be useful for people who are thinking about doing the Camino for the first time. So I'll talk about three things that I really liked about my gear. I'll talk about three things that I wish I didn't take. And then I'll talk about one thing that maybe I should have had, and then maybe one thing that I'll be throwing away. So let's get started. The first thing on my list are my shoes, and these are the Salomon Ultra X shoes. These were absolutely fantastic. No blisters, no pain. They got pretty beaten up as I was going along, very dusty and muddy on some days. And as you can probably see here, the sole has worn right down. I think there's probably still a bit of wear in these, but these were absolutely fantastic trail runners. Many people were wearing boots as well, but I prefer trail runners. They're a bit lighter, but they're just as sturdy, and these were really good, worth every dollar and cent, without any kind of doubt. Next up, I'd like to talk about my backpack. This is the Osprey Kestrel 48 litre pack. It's probably a little larger than what you would really need. I think you could probably get away with a 35 to 40 litre pack, but this is the one I used, and I've been using it for a while now. Absolutely fantastic. It didn't cause me any trouble at all. Base weight of about 6.5 kilos with all of my gear in it, with plenty of space in the side pockets and also at the front for my extras. And I really like this pack, and I'm going to continue using it for as long as I can. And then finally, the last piece of gear that I really liked is my sleeping bag. I got this from Decathlon. This is a 15-degree bag. It only weighs 680 grams. Well worth it, I think. I'm really glad that I had that. Some of those nights in the albergues were cold, and that really kept me warm on those nights when everybody else was using blankets and a sleeping bag liner. So that sleeping bag was well worth having. Now let's move on to three things that I didn't really use or need, and the first one relates to soap. So I had 2 soap bars that I carried in these tins from a company that you'll probably recognize if you know the shape of this tin. Now the thing with these soap bars is that I used them a couple of times, but they wouldn't really dry out, and when I was doing my washing and having a shower, they wouldn't lather up properly, and so I ended up throwing away that soap, and instead I bought some liquid shampoo that I used in the shower and also for my washing too. So I know that the liquid weighs a bit more, but in terms of efficiency and in terms of effectiveness, I think that the liquid soap is a better buy, and I'll never use these soap bars again. The next thing that I didn't use is this torchlight. Yeah, it doesn't weigh very much at all, but in the albergues, it wasn't really necessary. There's sufficient lighting. A lot of people had headlamps that they used to walk around with at night and in the early morning, but I don't think they're really useful, and so I don't really think that is something that I will ever be taking on a Camino again. The final thing that I didn't use were these sunglasses from Oakley. They're very good, but the problem is that even on sunny days, I didn't wear them. And of course, on the days when it was raining and cold, I didn't need them. And so they just took up space in my pack, and I probably won't ever take sunglasses again. One thing that I could have taken, but I thought twice about, is a trekking pole. There were a couple of steep climbs and descents where I think a trekking pole would have been useful. Many other people had poles. I didn't have one. I didn't take this with me, but I guess that this would have been useful, and I think that maybe I'll think again about having a pole with me. This one doesn't weigh very much at all, but I think it would be useful. The only problem is that when I'm filming, I've got to use one hand for that, and I've got to use one hand for the pole. Just too many things going on at the same time, and so I wasn't sure about a pole, but maybe it would be a good idea, especially on the steep parts and the descents of the Camino. And finally, one thing that I used, but I'll be throwing away, are these sandals. I wore these in the albergue and in the shower, but as you can see here, there's a hole that has developed on the heel, and on the wet days, rain got in here, and my feet got soaking wet, including my socks, which took a long time to dry. So these sandals were very good. I'd recommend having a pair of sandals, because these can be, you can also walk in these if you need to, for whatever reason. But these have served their purpose, and I think I'm going to throw them away. I don't really need them anymore. They're just taking up space. So I hope that was helpful, and that my experiences will help you decide what gear you might want to leave behind, and what gear you might want to take, and what gear you might want to just forget all about when you go on your next Camino. So, Buen Camino, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.